What's going on, everybody at home? This is your host with the most, Philly Jim, coming at you guys with some brand new, some fresh Eagles content and stuff. I got my new co-host, Mr. Lindy Endzone, joining me in an effort to do something really cool with this podcast here. Welcome, everyone, to the very first episode of the Linc'd In Podcast for the Philadelphia Eagles, where we will be keeping you guys linked in on everything that is going on surrounding the team. And I actually got to give Lindy the credit, because when we were brainstorming ideas, you know, all these names are like, there's so many Eagles podcasts in the world right now. There's like Birds Nest, This Nest, Eagles Net, like all these are taken. So it's like, what are we going to do? It was an outside the box kind of move. So definitely got to give you credit for that, bro.
Yeah, no, I mean, they stemmed from, generic names, and, sometimes people don't want to put a lot of thought into, coming up with any kind of title, because the content's more important to them, and rightfully so. Like, they'll be generic or even more. Wow. I just forgot the word, and it was on the top of my head.
You lost your train of thought.
But yeah, no, but complex, excuse me. But yeah, I mean, they'll stem from anywhere. But we wanted to figure out something that, is still relevant, but it hits home at the same time. And while there wasn't too many of the like, so long as we weren't trying to connect the dots to, LinkedIn for career connections, we had to get the spelling correct.
Hey man, you might want to connect. You might want to connect with me. I don't know if you see my resume, whatever you want to do, man. But we got some really good Eagles stuff to go over, and I think we're going to start with the NFL draft. The Philadelphia Eagles completely knocked it out of the park. Let's take a look at the draft picks. Disclaimer, I did not make this graphic. I'm going to start making graphics, but I just decided to borrow this from Eagles Wire. Yeah, so thank you, right. Eagles Wire, for making this. It looks fantastic. I did not make this. But Jordan Davis in the first round, Cam Jurgens in the second round, Nakobe Dean third round, Kyron Johnson in the sixth round, and then also Grant Calcaterra. So I guess we will go in chronological order with this whole situation. The Eagles traded up to the Texans with the 13th pick. We had the 15th pick and the 18th pick. Traded the 18th pick in a third rounder for A.J. Brown, obviously. And then you go up and you get Jordan Davis. So when I'm looking at this draft pick, I love the move. It's not probably the sexy move that I think people were expecting, but it's a move that makes complete sense, and it's a perfect fit for our team. You're talking about a guy that's, as big as this guy is. He's over 340-something pounds. He's got freakish athletic ability. His ability to he's so big that, you can't really run against him. So this defensive line in 2017 when they won the Super Bowl, they were so deep. And the reason why we had so much success is because we were able to rotate in and out. So Fletcher Cox, with him, coming on the backside of his career, obviously it makes sense to bring in Jordan Davis to get the torch passed upon to him. But, it's also going to provide an opportunity to keep guys fresh. You got Milton Williams and Jordan Davis, and you got Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave. So those four right there, those guys are going to be rotating constantly. And then when it gets to the fourth quarter, your best defensive linemen are going to be fresh, and they're going to be able to go. That's the time of the game where you need to go after and get the quarterback. So I absolutely love the move with that pick. I think that it solves a major hole for us going into the future, and look for Jordan Davis to be the centerpiece of the Eagles defensive line for years to come.
Yeah. Well, I mean, guys with his athleticism and, that kind of chart that he put up toward, from the combine and whatnot, and his participation there. Those guys with that kind of athletic profile, they just don't grow on trees. So, but I think we knew going into this draft with it being a multi-year process. You know, Pan Jim paying attention to his TV because of the Sixers game being on at the same time.
I
You know,
had to make sure we're not blowing this lead, but
yeah,
please
yeah.
continue.
Yeah, no, I mean, with our ceremonial first episode, getting it going here, but yeah, no, like I said, guys with that kind of athletic profile, especially when you're talking defensive line, they don't grow on trees, and I think we knew after that pick what the Eagles were trying to do here, and setting up the next era of foundational pieces at their most core positional groups. When you talk about offensive and defensive line, that's where they prioritize the most. And credit to Howie Roseman for keeping a plan in place ever since him learning, through Andy Reid over the last 2 decades, and he's held true to the formula and executing it year after year throughout the draft. And yeah, of course, he hasn't hit on a lot of key positions, and part of that, as we know, has been an issue of not sticking to the board when people in the scouting department are putting it together. But nonetheless, I think when you put 2020's class 2020's class or 2021's class into perspective, I mean, he's kind of on a roll here, almost like a 2 for 2. And I've said this a couple of times before, in realizing that a lot of the players from the previous class, they have gotten some play time, some meaningful minutes on the field in some capacity. They have, even if it was the latest draft picks, and take a guy in Jacoby Stevens, who people have seemed to have forgotten about at this point in time, and his conversion from safety to linebacker. So that's another guy to keep a lookout for, and he was a fan favorite last year. But yeah, no, starting with the Jordan Davis pick, I could repeat myself again, but no, I think it was the beginning of a new era of foundational pieces, and it started with him.
For sure. And we got Angel 3 in the comment section. What's going on, Angel? Thank you for being with us tonight. So yeah, absolutely agree with Jordan Davis. So second part of the first round, the Philadelphia Eagles acquired Titans wide receiver A.J. Brown, and I was on your stream, and you kind of suggested that, whoa, what if we traded for A.J. Brown? And, I think it was right after the Detroit Lions, drafted Jameson Williams. So I think that there might have been a smokescreen involved when you look at this move here, because leading up to the draft, all we heard was Jameson Williams. But it was reported and confirmed by Howie Roseman that the Eagles were having ongoing conversations with the Titans in regards to A.J. Brown for at least 24 hours before the draft. So I think that when you look at it, they wanted people to think that we were in on Jameson or one of these other receivers in the draft. And, not taking anything away from any of the receivers in the draft, but you have a proven commodity in A.J. Brown, a guy that's has a great relationship with Jalen Hurts. They are very, very good friends, and they've known each other for years. In fact, Jalen was at AJ's draft party when he was drafted by the Tennessee Titans a couple of years ago. So that's something worth noting when you're looking at chemistry and camaraderie and complete cohesion with these wide receivers and the quarterback, because obviously Devontae and Jalen have played together with the Eagles for a year, but they also played at Alabama together. We know that. And then AJ has been his friend for years. They work out in the offseason. They're very familiar with each other. So it's not going to be too much of a transition as far as getting used to a new quarterback, because this is a guy that you're always around all the time. So for a first rounder, kind of the mid to late first rounder, almost in the 20s with the 18th pick and a third rounder this year, I think that, giving that up for A.J. Brown, completely worth it. He's going to step in. He's going to provide a lot of production immediately for the offense, and he's going to take the pressure off of Devontae Smith. and just make life easier for Jalen Hurts and this Eagles offense. So if I had to say, Howie Roseman, he cooked something up in this draft in the first round particularly. That's when we kind of say, this guy's up to something.
Yeah, I think at the same time he wanted to leave his options as wide open as possible when you're concerning the wide receiver position. I mean, you look at the top 30 visits that the Eagles have used, and Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, I believe Garrett Wilson was up. Garrett Wilson was up there as well, and and in pondering this for a little bit longer, I thought of two extra things here, and we're talking about a duo of Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, where we know with some recent developing news that Jalen has talked about that he has tried to recruit AJ to play with him since the collegiate level, and when Jalen was at Alabama, and as we know, AJ has he deferred to going to Ole Miss, but now that's it's in the past. But nonetheless, when you also take into fact that the player, one of the player comps that AJ Brown was a part of was Arkansas receiver Treylon Burks, who we know Aaron Moorhead was a part of the pro day for Treylon, coordinating the drills and getting him some looks from other scouts and whatnot, and working him out, seeing where he is. Well, if you put it that way, instead of getting a player comp to AJ Brown, well, why don't you, instead of getting the next best thing, why don't you get the best thing right there and then? But you also have to question at the same time, why was it this easy for the Titans to give up AJ in the first place when he still had 1 year left in his rookie deal? Well, the Titans aren't very well known for paying for some of their top players, especially the receiver position. They haven't had the greatest track record in retaining some of those guys, and we know as of late that the Julio Jones experiment has not worked out for them because he couldn't stay healthy with his massive hamstring concerns, and you watch Derrick Henry go down, and well, AJ had to be that guy for a point in time, and I think so. Going forward, I think a couple of things we'll have to look out for is, just that camaraderie between Jalen and AJ, how that's going to translate to the football field now that they're finally together. We also know that AJ has gone through two knee scopes, one knee scope in both knees. So we'll have to manage that a little bit, see where he is from a health perspective going forward. That he got a 4-year extension on top of his rookie deal. But this is the kind of move that you make that's going to put you in the best position for evaluating your quarterback. And well, they had to look across the board and, try and figure out. And it became more apparent that when a receiver like this becomes available at the collegiate level, you don't think it's pretty easy to say that none of these rookies are going to give you the amount of production that AJ is going to in terms of potential. And well, there's no guarantee to that at the same time because it all depends on where these players are drafted to. And, point to Jameson Williams, he didn't look pretty happy in his jersey and in his jersey at press conference introduction, standing next to Aiden Hutchinson. He didn't look pretty happy at all going to Detroit.
Leading up to the draft, Jameson Williams he seemed pretty excited about possibly playing with Devontae Smith. So he did not look too thrilled about that at all. But let's run through the rest of the draft real quick. Second round, Cam Jurgens. So a lot of people were very surprised with this pick, especially with Landon Dickerson. It seems as though Jeff Stoutland, Howie Roseman, and everyone in the Eagles organization, Nick Sirianni, everyone on the staff, would rather him play with Jordan Mailata on the left side and keep that chemistry going instead of having him play until Kelsey is retired and then have him slide to center. They're going with Cam Jurgens here from Nebraska, who's a guy that Jason Kelsey's actually been helping them scout guys. He's been helping them out scouting guys for the last 2 or 3 years. And Jason said himself that he feels that Cam Jurgens is a player that compares most to his overall skill set, his ability to move, athletic ability, power, all that kind of stuff. So I think that it was an interesting pick. It wasn't a pick that I was particularly, thrilled about, but, I guess that it makes sense. And, you'd rather take a player like that right now than have to do it later. Because if you look at our division rival Cowboys, since the retirement of Travis Frederick, it's kind of been a major issue for them. So not really the pick I was anticipating, but it's a pick I understand nonetheless.
Yeah, no, I mean, at that point in time, you're still looking at the board and you're like, okay, well, we know that safety depth is a problem. We know that cornerback depth is a problem. The team needs a CB2. The team needs a more, a more skilled starting safety, if I may say it that way. I mean,
okay.
Anthony Harris, as we know, was brought in alongside Ronnie McLeod to get them used to the schematics of Jonathan Gannon and what he wanted to bring defensively. Coming from across of the Colts, Minnesota Vikings, but more so recently the Vikings, and that was the whole point of the Anthony Harris acquisition. And with Rodney not here anymore, and all with legitimate reasoning and building up an injury history, and him approaching 33 years old, not the ideal situation in terms of a starting player in the secondary, especially at that safety spot. Now we're getting up there with Darius Slay, who's 31, but he's still a Pro Bowler to this point in time. So you can get away with that over there. You still need a competent number one corner. So when it came to the Cam Jurgens pick, and it was I seen a couple of the beat writers. I seen a couple of the beat writers actually confirm it today, and Jimmy Kempski was saying that it's actually Jurgens instead of Jurgens, and I don't know. Somebody, I think Cam has to confirm that himself. He may have in his rookie minicamp press conference today. I didn't get a chance to watch it. So he may have confirmed the pronunciation of his last name. So I've heard Jurgens. But nonetheless, as we know, Jason Kelce talked about it, and, he felt that Cam was one of the best, or if not the best, center prospect that he has evaluated in the last few years. More so in terms of somebody that fits Kelce stylistically in his athletic profile, the way he plays the center position. Of course, there's never going to be another Jason Kelce. I think we all know that very much so. Not only is he, in my eyes, a lock to be an Eagles Hall of Famer, but he should also be an NFL Hall of Famer, because to me, I don't think offensive linemen are as appreciated as they should be when it comes to the Hall of Fame. When you think of Hall of Fame players, it comes to tight ends, quarterbacks, wide receivers. Those three positions are usually thought of first, unless you're just an anomaly like Brian Dawkins and Ed Reed, Brian Urlacher, guys like that. But no, Kelce deserves that praise as much as those guys do, without 100%. A doubt. And but that's pretty much a part of what makes this pick validated. And well, between the three of us and our draft coverage over on my channel, we weren't needless to say, we were not expecting that selection either, with the context that I provided a couple of minutes ago. But yeah, I mean, nonetheless, this was another foundational selection. And if you take out the A.J. Brown trade with the first two selections, they went they went defensive trenches, then they went offensive trenches. It's the molding stays the same throughout. The molding stays the same throughout these draft classes, and I think
it's a proven formula. It's a proven formula that works. I mean, if you have great offensive and defensive line play, it's going to give you a better chance to win come the postseason. So, third round, probably the most shocking part of this draft, because I think the main reason why, and admittedly, the main reason why I was pissed about the Jurgens pick is because I wanted Nakobe Dean. And I did not think Nakobe Dean would be available in the third round. So, I mean, the best part of that stream, Lindy, was when you jumped up out of your chair and you're like, Nakobe Dean, and I was just sitting there like, we had two completely different reactions. I was
like,
left,
wait, what?
I was left speechless. I was like,
yeah,
did that really just happen? And I gotta say, a lot of people were bringing up his health and his injury concerns. We'll get to rookie minicamp a little later in the show, but according to Howie Roseman, according to Nakobe and everyone around him, there's no concerns. There's nothing to be worried about as far as, his pec injury and this injury and that injury. And, everyone's saying, oh, he decided not to get surgery. Well, yeah, because he went to the hospital. He went to doctors. He got a second opinion. He got a third opinion. And they're like, bro, don't need surgery. Just rest up. Just take it easy. And, by the time the season starts, by the time training camp, even much before training camp, because he's a full participant in Eagles rookie minicamp. But as far as the player, what he's going to bring to this team, I think that he brings leadership. He obviously brings a winning mentality, the culture at Georgia. You got to give Kirby Smart a lot of credit, because I know that Nick Saban gets a lot of praise as well. But Kirby Smart worked under Nick Saban, and the Georgia team that won the championship last year set the NFL record for most players drafted of all time. So and most of those players were defensive players. I believe 8 of those 14 players were defensive players, and about 5 of those players went in the first round. So I think you got to give Kirby Smart and the staff with Georgia a lot of credit for developing these guys. But Nakobe Dean, he brings that speed. He brings that sideline-to-sideline action and his ability to cover. He's a playmaker. He can get interceptions if he gets the ball in his hands. He's explosive, and he can make big plays for the defense, cause some havoc, cause some turnovers. And he's also a great leader. He can lead the defense. He can be the quarterback, so to speak, of the Philadelphia Eagles defense, even though he's a very, very young player. So I think that after that, I was just like, you know what? I don't even care how he does the rest of the draft. You got A.J. Brown, you got Nakobe Dean, and you got Jordan Davis. Nothing else matters. You killed the draft, and then then there was obviously Grant Calcaterra. He took some time off from football, played at Oklahoma. He was dealing with concussion, so he retired. He was about to become an EMT. He gets drafted, so he's going to compete for that backup tight end spot. And then you also have Kyron Johnson, who I believe is going to be more of a situational pass rusher for us, and more or less he'll probably be a special teams guy with his ability to sprint down the field. He's got good speed. He can wrap up really well, so I think he'll be an asset on special teams as well. But overall, I got to give Howie Roseman an A for this draft. There's no doubt about it. This is the best draft that he's had as the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles, and he had a good draft last year. So it's kind of like you said, he is starting to turn that page as far as all of us fans just being kind of nervous and skeptical when you have all these picks. Now we know Howie knows what he's doing. The scouts know what they're doing, and they're going to put this team positioned to build a really good team and be competitive for many, many years to come.
Yeah, and we heard quite a lot of banter about the conversations with Nakobe Dean and him constantly falling in the draft, and my allergies still seem to be bothering me. Almost had a sneeze. I almost had to sneeze there. My eyes are watering up a little bit. But no, like we at that 51st selection, and we're just watching Nakobe continue to fall, and you know, we get to 83, and he's still sitting there. And we heard Howie Roseman talk about it and say that, well, as much as Nakobe was getting, his injury concerns assessed, well, Howie was doing the same thing, and he's already talked about that in some of his post-draft press conferences. Like, he was double checking, he was triple checking. Like, is there anything that we're missing on this? And you know what? F it, let's get him, because he is not going to last past us. And who was the next team picking up behind, after us on the board? Pittsburgh Steelers. Yep. So you very well darn know that that's another team that, loves their linebackers.
They've built really good defenses. So yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Ravens and Steelers, those two teams right there, and they've known for how many years battling each other in that division. It's just, if we weren't going to take him at that moment in time, he wouldn't be here. And Sirianni talked about it today. He is also quite a couple of questions were brought up about Nakobe and Jordan Davis, and he said it's not very it's not very often or rare occasion that you're able to get two prime selections that happen to be on the same team in your building, and you're going to want to use that to your utmost advantage as much as you possibly can.
They know how to play with each other.
Absolutely. So with that said, you have to imagine that they're going to develop some packages where Jordan and Nakobe are on the field at the same time. And
they absolutely will.
And where Nakobe is going to be best placed, I feel that, and I understand that TJ Edwards has gotten an extra deal. I think he got an extra 2 years, and he may have a year left in this core. But eventually, when you talk about foundational pieces, Nakobe Dean is going to be your captain. That's what he was drafted. To me, that's what he was drafted to be. He's going to be that Mike linebacker. He's going to cycle between the Mike and the Will. Depending on the matchups, depending on how advantageous in situational awareness of Jonathan Gannon, and when depending on the offense that he's facing, he's going to understand that I got some athleticism at the second level that I can take advantage of, and I can bring Nakobe off the edge, or I can bring him right behind Jordan Davis, while we're going to have him try and attract some double teams. So if our guys can't get home at the first level, we know Nakobe can do it. We know Kazir White can do that a little bit. We know our edge rushers and Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat, they can do that a little bit. Brandon Graham, when you look across the board, there's a lot of potential here in accelerating the proficiency of your pass rush. And, Nakobe Dean is another guy that's going to take full-fledged advantage of that. But, now it's getting through the initial phases of the rookie minicamp and everything else that follows with it. But you can't feel any less excited than what Eagles fans are feeling right now with that selection. And you bring up Kyron Johnson. That's another guy. He kind of fits that Hassan Reddick backup type of mold, where you've seen him at the senior. You see him at the I think it was the Senior Bowl or something, and he was doing some reps, and he was really bull rushing some offensive tackles and catching them completely off guard. Well, if he's doing that to guys on the offensive line, and you can probably cycle this guy between the Will and the Sam. If he can take care of a lineman, then for sure a tight end's not going to stop him either. If you put him on the strong side, especially next to Hargrave or Fletcher Cox or whatever the rotation may be. I mean, you're going to have explosiveness, across the board on that field. And this just puts Jonathan Gannon in a lot of advantageous positions to where he has the personnel now to cycle in and out of the lineup, keep guys fresh, like we were talking about in 2017 season. But now it just comes down to the coaching staff coaching these guys up, getting them ready. Nick Rallis for the linebackers, and throwing them on the field,
yeah,
getting them ready to go.
Man. Absolutely. So, great draft overall. We're going to get the rookie minicamp now. Nick Sirianni, when he spoke to the media, said that rookie minicamp is not designed to, have players overthink anything. It's about working on the fundamentals. It's not about, doing anything crazy. Just trying to figure out where these guys are at, what they're capable of, what they can do. So they had some individual drills, obviously. It was also reported there will not be any 11-on-11 stuff. There is a little bit of 7-on-7 work going on, though. So I think it's good for the guys to come in and get to know each other, get to know your new teammates, get to know the coaching staff, work on your stuff for a little bit, and then come back ready for training camp. Because when we come back for training camp, it's gonna be time. It's gonna be time for full throttle stuff. But getting these guys on the field just to get even a little bit of work, I think is a good thing. They're gonna learn that system, and when it comes to the training camp, he's gonna be ready to go. They're gonna be ready to go and compete, and it's awesome to see what Nick Sirianni has done with, as he stresses the fundamentals of the game, which. No disrespect to Doug Peterson, I wouldn't say that was a big emphasis when him and his staff were here, and that was obviously visible on the field. But I think that emphasizing sorry, I had a brain fart for a second. Emphasizing those fundamentals is what separates the really good teams from the great teams. So I think that even someone like Bill Belichick focuses on the fundamentals of the game. So planting some good seeds to grow into some flowers or whatever the hell Nick was talking about last year. It's something that works, and they're planting the seeds right into these guys. So awesome stuff. Happy from all the stuff I've heard with rookie minicamp. Going to be a good weekend for these guys to get some work in.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that, with Sirianni and, in contrast to Doug, there's less ice cream involved. I think there's that's the best thing.
There's less ice cream and more flower planting.
Flower power. Flower power. Super
I'll be honest. I mean, we were when he made those comments, we were in the middle of a losing streak. So I swear to you, when he said that, I was just like, "Oh my god, this guy! Get this guy out of here!" I was already done with him, but he ended up being right, and the seeds did grow into something, and the team started playing completely different football as the season went on. So I think Nick has done a great job establishing culture and expectations. Going from his first year to his second year. I think he's going to do a lot better with game planning and things of that nature.
Well, I think it's that out-of-box approach of perseverance that he brought to this football team, and he really grew. He really grew himself a mold in setting a standard to what he wants his team to focus on, and continuing to try and build a consistency with them, week in and week out. And he's talked about it with the rookie mini camps and whatnot. He has said that this is the time for guys to start to gel and get used to playing with each other and the new faces and everything. This is the time to build relationships because, well, as we know with OTAs and training camp, well, now it's time that you turn up the heat on competition. And, well, as far as the rookies go, this is a good trial for not just the rookies and figure out where they are in terms of football shape, but this gives the coaching staff a nice glance on as to where they feel these guys are going to be when the year 2 guys come in and year 3 and the veterans. When you mesh the whole group together, then it's going to help them in terms of evaluation, especially when you understand on the the level of value that they have used in drafting some of these players. And you branch it from the tight end room, and putting Grant Calcaterra with Jack Stoll and Tyree Jackson, and there's going to be a contest for the tight end 2 spot over there. We'll see what happens with that. They have a former Penn State basketball player trying out for them right now. I forget. I think it's like
I forgot. I knew his name. Like I said his name last night on stream, but
I think his first name is like Tyler Harar or something like that. He's like 6'9",
Harar or something. Yeah, that's what it is. He's
like 6'9", 240 pounds. So it's another Tyree Jackson-esque type of guy there. So I mean, it's stuff like that's up in the air. But but that's where
the backup tight end spot is wide open though. The backup tight end spot is wide open though, because if you look at the last several years, probably since Dallas Goedert got drafted, it's always been Ernst and Goddard every year. We're like, man, we got the Twin Towers at the tight ends. We don't got to worry about it. We don't got to discuss it. It's not even a topic of conversation. But now with Zach being with Arizona, it's kind of an interesting situation now, because you got a bunch of guys in here. You got Grant Calcaterra that's going to be competing for that spot. They're trying out the Penn State guy, Herard, who's a power forward. He actually averaged a double-double for Penn State. He averaged 10 points and 10 rebounds. So actually not bad stats for a power forward in college. And then you got Tyree Jackson as well, who pretty much raised a lot of eyebrows in training camp last year. Got hurt in preseason with the back injury, came back, played a little bit, tore his ACL, had the knee injury. So just really bad luck for him after turning a lot of heads. But nonetheless, that position is wide open, and I will be very, very curious to see who comes out on top and secures the backup spot behind. And I didn't even mention J.J. Arcega-Whiteside's transition to tight end. I'll be interested to see which one of these guys comes out on top as the tight end 2 of the Philadelphia Eagles.
And let's not undermine the depth chart that they had back in 2017, where they actually utilized 3 tight ends and cycled in like 12 personnel packages, where it was Ertz, 100%. Brent Selleck, and Trey Burton, who now Grant Calcaterra has Trey Burton's old number, so he's going to be 47. But yeah, no, I think this tight end group is shaping up to be a real contest, and Jack Stoll has shown some pretty good promise as an undrafted rookie last year, although he's limited in what he provides to the football team, more so on the blocking end than the receiving end. And that's where the contrast comes in between him and Grant. And Grant, has built a reputation in being a pretty good red zone threat. He has a great eye for high pointing the football. Keeping it in his catch radius if the ball is thrown a little bit high or away from him. Watching a little bit of Grant, that's one thing that I like about him is, he's got some pretty nice mitts for hands and being able to catch the football consistently.
Right.
So he's going to add some competition to a guy like Arcega-Whiteside, who at the receiver position, in terms of production and what we were looking out of him, he was supposed to be, one of those, red zone extraordinaires. And
he was supposed to be the next guy taking over for Alshon Jeffrey as the jump ball receiver. That did not work out at all. But one thing I'll say about this, and even JJ, he's a good blocker. So I feel like whichever one of these guys comes out on top of this position, it's going to be whoever the best blocker is, because it's not. I don't think that spot's going to be I mean, you're going to have to catch the ball occasionally, but you're not going to get a bunch of targets. Running the ball is going to be a huge part of the Eagles' offense. We saw a drastic change from the start of the season where we were having Jalen Hurts throw the ball 40-something times a game, every single game. And then we started running the balanced offense, started getting Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, all the guys involved. Running the ball is a huge part of this offense. So you have to be able to block. Even our receivers have to be able to block. A.J. Brown's a good blocker. As dynamic as he is, he's also a good blocker. Devontae Smith was actually, I mean, people get on him for his size, but I saw him throw out a few good blocks last season as well. So whoever takes over this tight end 2 spot, it's going to be somebody that can block and catch.
Yeah, I feel that's going to end up being Calcaterra. I got a pretty good hunch that it's going to end up being him. And let's not forget that Grant was one of Hurts' favorite targets when Hurts was still in college playing for Oklahoma. Next to CeeDee Lamb before Calcaterra ended up.
He was the runner-up for Heisman that year, second only to Mr. Joe Burrow.
Who's that? Hurts?
Jalen Hurts. I said Jalen was runner-up to Joe Burrow, but if it wasn't for Burrow, Hurts would have probably won the Heisman.
I think it was for Chase Young. Nonetheless, I think that's what's ultimately going to happen in terms of the tight end position. I have a feeling that now, granted, a 6th-round pick, there's not a whole lot of value that you're looking at there, but you can very well make an argument against it and saying, well, look at the production that Quez Watkins gave you in year 2, having a little bit of development there and being a nice complement to Devontae Smith for the time being until the Eagles ended up getting a true X in A.J. Brown. But you have to imagine that, in a sea of undrafted rookies, undrafted free agents, Calcaterra looks like he's going to be probably the top standout between all of them if it all works out. And when you talk about a guy that can, block and catch when needed, if the Eagles need to do like a 12 or, a 12 or 13, a 12, personnel type of look at a red zone package, if you need some physical guys going across the field, him and Goddard at the same time, it's a pretty attractive look offensively.
Yeah, so next topic of discussion is about quarterback Jalen Hurts. So the Eagles were back for OTAs. A bunch of players spoke to the media. Jalen spoke to the media. He had some interesting things to say as far as the way that he's approaching the offseason and everything like that. So I'm just going to play a clip real quick.
Training approach, in my young career, I've been trying to find out what's my way of doing things in the offseason. I've had opportunities to go back to Houston. I've been in Dallas. I've been in Florida. Had the opportunity to go out to Cali. So just a holistic approach of taking the next step as a quarterback, whether that be functioning the offense, running the offense, taking true command of the offense, on the field, in the weight room, what am I eating, how much film am I watching, creating a schedule for myself, and just practicing great discipline in what I do. So I think holistically, it's all been helpful. Doesn't matter where I do that at or what state or who I'm working with. I think it's all been beneficial for me this offseason.
Yeah, so Jalen's just trying to figure out what works best for him as far as his approach to the offseason. His work ethic and his leadership, that it cannot be questioned. But he's been in Florida, he's been all these different places. He's spent a little bit of time in California. He's been around Tom House, who's a quarterback guru. He's worked with a lot of the great quarterbacks in the league in the offseason. So Jalen's just trying to keep climbing. Another thing that he said that really stood out was he knows that this is his team, and he's going to do what he can to lead this team, take the next step as a quarterback, whether it be being in command of the offense running the offense, being a better leader in the locker room, out of the locker room, whatever the case may be. So Jalen, I feel, is going to take the next step. I don't even think he had that bad of a season. I mean, for his first season in NFL, they threw a lot of different things at him, and he overcame it. He did take some progressions as the season went on. But this season, I think, is when we're going to see a noticeable difference. I do believe he will improve his game as a passer. His completion percentage went up from 51% his rookie season. It was only a few games that he played, but 51% to 61%. I see Jalen getting that number anywhere from we want to see him get somewhere between 67 and 70%. I think that he is going to get there. I think A.J. Brown is going to make his life a lot easier because A.J.'s got a huge catch radius. He can make the tough catches, and Jalen can trust him to actually go up and catch a ball, unlike someone like Jalen Reagor, who he literally couldn't beat one-on-one man coverage. He was getting thrown to the ground. So I feel like that issue is going to be taken away. Jalen's always grinding, trying to get better. He's going to take the next step. Absolutely, there's no question.
Yeah, and I think you could argue at the same time that Hurts isn't necessarily that type of quarterback who is going to, sit in the pocket and pick a defense apart right away and accumulating a completions percentage of closer to 70%. I think in all fairness, in the improvement that he has had up to this point with his highest percentage in a season total being 61, I think a fair ground satisfactory level would probably be a minimum of 65. I think that would be the common ground consensus as to, what, maybe he can throw the football. Yeah, 4 percentage points doesn't seem like a whole lot, but when you average it out throughout the entirety of a season, it does make a pretty big difference. And when you consider that he only had about 3,100 passing yards last year, and when you add his rushing total, he was closer to 4,000 total, like all-purpose yards instead of just passing yards. So yeah, the passing aspect, it definitely needs to be improved upon. And I find it funny that the way we're talking about Hurts is the same way people were talking about a quarterback that plays for the Baltimore Ravens and questioning him the same way as to whether he can throw the football or not. And granted, this guy was an MVP candidate. He was an MVP.
He won the MVP.
He won an MVP as well. I think he was a candidate for at least 2 years or, 2 years consecutively or so.
And the year he won MVP, he led the league in passing touchdowns. Mr. Lamar Jackson.
Come on. And I'm not sitting here and saying that Jalen Hurts has as equal of a talent level as Lamar Jackson does, but my point is if you're going to share the same criticisms between Jackson and Hurts, you already seen the type of improvement that Jackson is capable of. Well, let's be fair. Let's be fair here in the same breath, and ask ourselves and say that Hurts should be just as capable of making the jump that he needs. Especially, and considering what the Eagles have done to put a better football team around him offensively, it's a lot more well-rounded that suits to a strength of being able to pass the football more. And I think the Eagles have told you that, with their draft selections, with their free agency pickups, and we're bringing all this A.J. Brown talk up to conversation. Well, Zach Pascal is also on the football team, who's a teacher's pet to Sirianni. So, when you take it as a whole, whether we like it or not, because of the how stout of a offensive line that we have, no pun intended, and Jeff Stoutland we trust, but nonetheless, as much as Eagles fans love running the football, the team has told you this offseason that they are looking to pass the football more. And Sirianni has talked about in today's press conference, because, again, it was brought up about Jalen Hurts and, where he feels Hurts is right now and what he thinks of Jalen taking all this time to go across the country and work in different spots. And, SoCal was brought up, in which you were talking about before, was bounced over to me. And that was something Sirianni said that was a collaborative effort between Jalen and the coaching staff. There was a bunch of suggestions that were brought up, but all in all, it was a group effort to put Jalen where he needs to be. Sirianni was involved, Brian Johnson was involved, Shane Steichen was involved. So that tells you right there the amount of investment in not just in their offseason decisions,
Absolutely.
but as a coaching staff, the amount of investment that they want in Jalen in order for him to succeed. So all this talk about, people are already saying that Carson Strong's gonna eventually be quarterback one. You guys are out of your freaking mind. Don't even go there. It's just not gonna happen. And you making a big fuss about Sirianni talking about him and how Strong was already calling his own plays and stuff, and how and how assertive he is, and yada yada. I mean, let's pump the brakes here. This is a guy that's completely immobile, a Tom Brady-esque type of quarterback, because both of his knees are blown out. I mean, let's just stop it. This is Jalen Hurts' team. The coaching staff understands it's Jalen Hurts' team. They are putting him in prime positions, tangibly and intangibly, to succeed. So, what are we talking about here?
You really can't ask for much more than that at the end of the day. Alex the Ghost coming in the comment section, dropping by to say what's up. What's up, Alex? Appreciate you for being here tonight, bro. So when we're talking about Jalen Hurts getting better, we're talking about the progression of Jalen Hurts. How much of a next step can the team take? How much better will the Philadelphia Eagles be this season? When I'm looking at the landscape of this division, Washington brings in number 11. He's back in the NFC East. A stopgap type of quarterback situation. I think the Eagles are going to be very excited to be playing against him twice a year. And when he comes back to Link, he will definitely be getting a warm welcome. I know that. But the Washington Commanders have not made that much. There hasn't been a whole lot of major moves on their part. And Dallas, the same thing. They didn't have the greatest draft. They didn't have the worst draft. They got some good quality pieces. But I feel like when you look at who they lost, you lose Amari Cooper. Mm-hmm. You lose Randy Gregory. You're losing all these guys. While the Philadelphia Eagles are adding guys, they're closing the gap on the Dallas Cowboys. And I think right now, the Eagles are on par with them. You can make an argument that Dallas is better. You can make an argument that the Eagles are better. But I think they're neck and neck, and I think it's going to be a tight division race, and we know that there hasn't been a repeat winner in this division in quite some time, since we last did it in 2003 and 2004. So it's been a very, very long time since it happened, and I think that trend's going to continue. I think the Eagles are going to win the NFC East as long as everyone stays healthy this year. With Jalen taking that next step, the offense is going to be much, much better with A.J. Brown coming in to complement Devontae Smith. Devontae was beating up on some of these top-tier cornerbacks as well. And now he's not going to be facing the top corner anymore. So I feel like the offense is going to be a lot more smooth. Jalen has that familiarity with it. He hasn't been in the same system for back-to-back seasons since he was in Alabama. So it's going to be crazy to see the progression of this team. But on both sides of the ball, we made major improvements. I am still concerned about the secondary a little bit, but it's May. It's May. We're not even the training camp. We're not the preseason. We got a long way to go, and I think another move is going to come to improve this roster on the back end. Eagles have been supposedly, if the Giants release Bradbury, they're going to aggressively pursue him as well, which I would say it's not anything to write home about, but Bradbury as a second corner with Darius Slay, I think we can make something happen with those two on the back end. But I do expect the Eagles to take the next step. I do expect them to go from winning 9 games to winning anywhere from 10 games to 12 games this year and an NFC East title.
Yeah, and we talked about this in a roundtable that you had on your channel just last night. I was trying to limit the amount of context that I provided because I was just in I was in a mood to talk about the Birds, but nonetheless, I think I kept enough information. I think I held enough for our ceremonial first episode of the podcast here. But yeah, no, in my assessment last night, I'm still going to stay true to it. But my early prediction is that this team is capable of winning 11 games. I think they'll be +2 to last year. I think they're going to be more consistent offensively. They're not going to feel as one-dimensional as they were before. And when I say one-dimensional, well, you put it in a perspective of the defense didn't have to work as hard to figure out what we were doing from an offensive standpoint, right? Because they understood the quarterback's limitations, they understood the personnel's limitations, they understood the head coach's limitations in terms of a play caller. So, and I think that's another thing that's being put under the carpet, so to speak, in terms of now this football team is going to have a little bit more of a chemistry than they did last year. And Jalen Hurts has, he has talked about that already, that this is the first time since high school that he's been in the same offense for more than, for at least 2 or more consecutive years. And that does a lot for a quarterback that's trying to grow at the, especially at the NFL level. So when you compile all that together, I think we had more concerns offensively than defensively. If we're being honest, defensively, it was, same story, different coordinator, so to speak. Oh. I think that's the best way that we can put it. Bend, don't break. And then they get aggressive at the last minute when they're already backed up towards their own end zone. It ends up not working. The opposing offense continues to score points because they're just outmanned. They're not talented enough. They don't have the right personnel to fit the scheme, and all the excuses that come full circle in the transition from Jim Schwartz to Jonathan Gannon. Well, you come into this year and you're looking across the board and you're saying, well, Hassan Reddick, Jordan Davis, N'Kobe Dean, Davion Taylor's going to be healthy. Oh,
a lot of playmakers.
It just piles on and on and on and on with the amount of potential that this team has as a whole. And then you put the quarterback in the center of it, and well, between him and the head coach, I think those two are either going to be the biggest leapers of the team overall, or they could be the biggest setback. And between Sirianni and Hurts, where that relationship is probably one of the most vital in the football team overall, aside from the other positional groups, I think that is where, when you narrow it down, that's going to be the biggest make it or break it result as to how this team is going to perform this coming season. So, yeah, but nonetheless, I feel this team's capable of winning 11 games right now. But again, it's way too early.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with you there. I think that we're capable of winning anywhere from 10 to 12. But, yeah, guys, we got a comment right here. What's going on? What's going on, guys? I just want to say I truly believe in Jalen Hurts. I believe he will progress tremendously, and we will win 11 games to win the division. I absolutely agree with you, my man. Thank you for tuning into the show tonight as well. Yeah, Jalen is going to take the next step in. He's going to prove all the non-believers that he can be the franchise quarterback of this team, and then we go into next season. We're going to have 2 first-round picks again, and we're going to continue to build this team around him. And this team's the future is bright for this team. He's turning the page. He's gonna get more pieces around him. It's gonna be great stuff. But we are running over a little bit over an hour now. So this was the debut episode of the Linc'd In Podcast. We'll be back next Friday. Lindy, his channel link is in the description. Make sure you guys are subscribed to him if you are not. And then you guys can see us right back here. But Lindy, do you want to tell anybody any other things you're working on, podcast or YouTube wise?
Nothing to the level of this podcast that we have just introduced. And, as I wanted to make a quick video on it last night and get it out there so there's a little bit more exposure, although I feel that we both have about I think the amount of subscribers I have, the majority of those are probably in support of you already, but nonetheless, no, I mean, this was one of the bigger feelings of an evolution in terms of where my channel is going. And
the next chapter,
this is this has been a pretty big anticipation on my part in getting something going and having the opportunity to not only create this podcast with you, but the opportunity that was presented to me to join the Sideline Sports family and bring an Eagles podcast to the platform and to be a co-host on it. It's a pretty fantastic feeling. But in terms of me personally, as this podcast is going to evolve and we're going to get better as a duo, well, I'm going to get better with myself, and you got to do your homework every day. At some point in time, I'm not sure when, but much that I have done some film room in the past for the Dallas Mavericks when I was covering them, I'm going to try and bring some of that to the Eagles and, add some of that content to the table. And I mean, that's just a little bit of a gist as to what I got going on. But the biggest focus that I have right now is building this podcast on, just the platform that we have and continuing to get better with it, every episode. Because I think we both come to a consensus here that we want this podcast to last for a pretty long time, So, but yeah, man, that's where I'm pretty much at.
All right, guys. So you can also catch the Gauntlet tomorrow at 7 p.m. Going to be on YouTube. The link to the Gauntlet channel, I have a new YouTube channel for that as well. It is in the comment section. It's in the description box. Excuse me. With that being said, guys, thank you very much for tuning in tonight. This is your host of the Most Philly Jim. This is Lindy scoring a touchdown, taking the lead, whatever it is that he says. I don't know if I said it right, but we will see you guys next Friday for some more Eagles talk. All right? See you guys.